We don't get wounded alone, and we don't heal alone. Every human life contains a potential. If that potential is not fulfilled, then that life was wasted. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. We don't so much solve our problems as we outgrow them. We add capacities and experiences that eventually make us bigger than the problems. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. There are as many nights as days, and the one is just as long as the other in the year's course. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. Nobody, as long as he moves among the chaotic currents of life, is without trouble. For better to come, good must stand aside. Faith, hope, love, and insight are the highest achievements of human effort. They are found given by experience. The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. The first half of life is devoted to forming a healthy ego. The second half is going inward and letting go of it. Thoroughly unprepared, we take the step into the afternoon of life. Worse still, we take this step with the false presupposition that our truths and our ideals will serve us as hitherto. But we cannot live the afternoon of life according to the program of life's morning, for what was great in the morning will be little at evening, and what in the morning was true at evening will have become a lie. We no longer live on what we have, but on promises, no longer in the present day, but in the darkness of the future, which we expect will, at last, bring the proper sunrise. We refuse to recognize that everything better is purchased at the price of something worse, that, for example, the hope of greater freedom is canceled out by increased enslavement to the state, not to speak of the terrible perils to which the most brilliant discoveries of science expose us. The less we understand of what our forebears sought, the less we understand ourselves, and thus we help with all our might to rob the individual of his roots and his guiding instincts, so that he becomes a particle in the mass, ruled only by what Nietzsche called the spirit of gravity. If one does not understand a person, one tends to regard him as a fool. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves. Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking. The one is the shadow of the other. The healthy man does not torture others. Generally, it is the tortured who turn into torturers. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. Somewhere, right at the bottom of one's own being, one generally does know where one should go and what one should do. But there are times when the clown we call I behaves in such a distracting fashion that the inner voice cannot make its presence felt. Deep down, below the surface of the average man's conscience, he hears a voice whispering there is something not right, no matter how much is rightness supported by public opinion or moral code. Through pride we are ever deceiving ourselves, but deep down below the surface of the average conscience a still, small voice says to us, something is out of tune. In all chaos, there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order. Life really does begin at 40. Up until then, you are just doing research. Man is not a machine. That can be remodeled for quite other purposes as occasion demands, in the hope that it will go on functioning as regularly as before, but in a quite different way. He carries his whole history with him. In his very structure is written the history of mankind, who has fully realized that history is not contained in thick books, but lives in our very blood. It all depends on how we look at things, and not how they are in themselves. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart, who looks outside, dreams, who looks inside, awakes. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Loneliness does not come from having no people round, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views which others find inadmissible. A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them, as far as we can discern. The sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents. The best political, social, and spiritual work we can do is to withdraw the projection of our shadow onto others. The reason for evil in the world is that people are not able to tell their stories. What if I should discover that the poorest of the beggars and the most impudent of offenders are all within me, and that I stand in need of the alms of my own kindness, that I, myself, am the enemy who must be loved. What then? In each of us there is another whom we do not know. With a truly tragic delusion, theologians fail to see that it is not a matter of proving the existence of the light, but of blind people who do not know that their eyes could see. It is high time we realized that it is pointless to praise the light and preach it if nobody can see it. It is much more needful to teach people the art of seeing. I am looking forward enormously to getting back to the sea again, where the overstimulated psyche can recover in the presence of that infinite peace and spaciousness. Nobody can fall so low unless he has a great depth. If such a thing can happen to a man, it challenges his best and highest on the other side. That is to say, this depth corresponds to a potential height, and the blackest darkness to a hidden light.